I remember how it all started. Summer, heat, the TV playing in the background, and there he was, coming down that golden escalator in his tower. A smile, not friendly but challenging. He spoke like someone who was done pretending, and his words weren't political. No filters, no pre-approved lines. He spoke roughly, sometimes offensively, but honestly. Or at least it sounded honest. I sat there thinking, finally, someone is saying what we all feel. That the country's been robbed, that no one is held accountable, that everything is a lie, a smile, a performance. He came like a storm, and I, like millions of others, felt someone finally isn't afraid. You know how it is. You live in the system. You see every year get worse, but the same faces stay at the top, the same words, the same empty promises. They speak beautifully, but do nothing. They smile, but their eyes are dead. And then there was him, alive, real, from a different world. Yes, rich, but blunt, genuine. He didn't pander. He spit on everything sacred. And there was something freeing in that. I watched his interviews, read his tweets, listen to his speeches, his laughter, his provocations. And deep inside, I had a strange feeling, like someone had shattered the screen. He fought the media. He said he'd drain the swamp. He promised to kick out the parasites sitting at the trough for decades. He said everything that should have been said long ago. And I believed him. We believed him. Then, things began to change. Not all at once. No. First, there was euphoria. Crowds. Flags. Tears of joy. He won. We did it. The system failed. But you know the irony? The system never fails. If you think it lost, you just didn't notice that it changed its mask. At first, I tried to ignore it. Small things, little inconsistencies. He said one thing, then did another. But I made excuses. He just started. They're blocking him. It's a strategy. I held on to hope that maybe, finally, we had chosen someone not from them. But then, he formed his cabinet. And it wasn't us. Not the people. It was bankers. Former Wall Street execs. Billionaires. Cold-eyed generals. And I sat there looking at the list, and it rang in my head. These are the very people he was supposed to fight. He promised to drain the swamp. Instead, he brought in the oldest crocodiles. He said he'd destroy the machine, but started by strengthening it. I remember one of his speeches. No more interfering in foreign lands. And then the military budget exploded. Operations across the globe, secret programs. Same strategies, just with new slogans. That's when I felt it. This was theater. Massive, expensive, convincing, but still theater. Then came the wall. Remember? Hundreds of rallies, thousands of words, hours of airtime. The wall, borders, America first. And in reality, just parts of old fencing, some upgraded sections. The wall was a symbol, not reality. And at some point I realized, this isn't about action. It's about attention. He didn't change the system. He filled the screen. He didn't fight. He distracted. While we argued over tweets, they signed laws. While we debated his tone and hair, budgets shifted, money disappeared, powers moved. And you know what? He was perfect for the role. Because both sides believed in him. Some as a savior, others as a destroyer. But both camps were focused on him. Not the system. Not the structure. Not the puppeteers. Him. And that's when the word hit me. Manipulation. But that was just the beginning. The more I watched, the more I saw. He wasn't fighting. He was playing. He didn't break the system. He was in it. He moved by its rules. Loudly, emotionally, but strictly within the script. He said, "We'll defeat the establishment." Then dined with it. He blamed the media for lying. Then gave them endless content. He threatened the deep state, but signed off on their budgets. You see, this wasn't rebellion. It was performance. He wasn't anti-system. He was the system's antagonist. Useful, convenient, to make people feel, finally, someone is ours. Inside me, a war began. Faith on one side, facts on the other. Promises were broken. Enemies became allies. And we, the people, stayed on the sidelines. He said he'd help the forgotten Americans. But poverty grew. The opioid crisis worsened. Small towns stayed dying. Meanwhile, Wall Street soared. Corporations bloomed. The old elite smiled, just more quietly. You understand what I'm saying? He wasn't a rebel. He was an actor. Charismatic, powerful, convincing. But still an actor. I began to ask myself one question. If he doesn't really control everything, then who does? If the president can't keep his promises, if he's surrounded by old elites, if he plays a role, then who writes the script? And I started digging. Not in headlines, not in trending tweets, but deeper, to places people rarely go. Do you know who owns the biggest media networks? The very ones that hated him? The same few corporations, with dozens of subsidiaries, holding companies, foundations, insurance firms, banks, and political interests. And who owns the banks that receive trillions in bailouts? No matter who's in office, the same families, the same funds, the same players for 50 years. You thought left versus right was a real fight? No, it's design. So you feel like you have a choice. So you choose the color, not the direction. I began to notice. Wherever he went, he broke nothing. He just renamed things. He called the media enemies of the people, but kept feeding them stories. He attacked corporations, but worked in their interests. He blamed the shadow government, but acted as its messenger. You see? He was the approved opposition. Have you noticed how everything got loud? Every day a new scandal, a new tweet, a new media frenzy, rallies, threats, memes, panic. You think it's all accidental? That he's just that kind of person? No. It's a technology. Chaos became a strategy. Not to destroy, but to cover. While people argue about words, no one asks about actions. While countries debate borders, financial networks become global. While we wave flags and chant slogans, the same hands control the flow of money. And this chaos, it's controlled. It's a smokescreen. Loud, emotional. But behind it, silence. That's where real decisions are made. You thought Trump brought disorder. No. He amplified the signal. He made it deafening. So you couldn't think. Only feel, argue, defend, attack. He turned politics into a reality show. Exactly as needed. So it looked like chaos, but worked like a machine. The longer I watched, clearer it became. Nothing was random. No mistake, no leak, no scandal, none of it was accidental. You think he accidentally became president? That a billionaire, famous for decades, just randomly decided to run? That he won against the odds? What if it was the plan all along? Each scandal made him bigger. Each critic turned him into a hero. Each humiliation made him iconic. That's not failure. That's programming. Elections, protests, impeachments, bans. It all feels wild, unpredictable. Like the system is breaking. Then you look again, and everything stays in place. Who lost power? No one. Who lost money? Not them. Yes, there was noise, fear. But in the end, everything got tighter. Control grew. Division deepened. Surveillance expanded. And you believed less in everyone. That's the plan. Make it feel like collapse, while quietly fortifying the walls. At some point, I stopped. Stopped reading headlines. Turned off the news. And just started watching. Not the speeches. Not the slogans. But the results. Who sat in power didn't change what was happening. Obama, Trump, Biden. Different styles, different tones. Same trajectory. Obama was polished. He sold hope. Perfect presentation. But under him, wars expanded. Drones multiplied. Surveillance ballooned. Wall Street was saved, not Main Street. Then came Trump. Loud, brash, unfiltered. The opposite of Obama. But if you look past the noise, corporations still ruled. The national debt soared. Intelligence budgets grew. Laws changed on paper only. Then Biden. Calm voice, familiar figure. Promised peace. What changed? Division worsened. Control sharpened. The same elite stayed seated. And then it hit me. This isn't a choice. It's an interface. You don't choose power. You choose a mask. One says freedom. One says safety. One yells, one whispers. But all of them, inside the same system. At some point, I stopped asking, who rules us? And started asking, why do we allow it? Why do we agree to all this? Why do we choose from what they give us? Why do we live inside someone else's script and never even try to step off the stage? I'm not looking for enemies. I'm not building theories. I just woke up one day and realized my whole life was a reaction to someone else's game. They taught me to look up. Presidents, leaders, parties, but never inward, never deep into myself. They gave us a cage and painted it in different colors. They gave us a choice between two walls. But a cage is still a cage if you remain inside it. They're not afraid of any candidate. They're afraid of only one thing, that you'll start thinking for yourself, that you'll stop believing the screen, stop dividing the world into us and them, that you'll step out of the argument and begin to build your own reality. Not to rebel, not to burn, but to create. Quietly, steadily. Not with rage, but with a fire inside. You have something they don't. Something no algorithm can decode. No camera can record. No database can store. It's called choice. Internal, invisible. Not for a president, but for yourself. You can say, enough. You can stand up. You can live differently. Slowly, consciously. Looking not at screens, but into eyes. Listening not to noise, but to silence. They told us we are consumers. That we're voters. That we're biomass. But deep inside, you feel something else. That you are not a cog, not a function, not a statistic, but something greater, deeper, brighter. And if we truly remember that, then everything else will simply vanish.